On this episode of The Lawyer You Know, we're going to be discussing gap years before law school. It's a question we've gotten, and we need to give our perspective and our answer on it. If this is the type of content you like, please like this video, subscribe to our page so you don't miss any of the future videos, and let us know in the comments, just like somebody did with this question, what do you want to know from a lawyer's perspective? Because that's what I'm here for. So let's talk gap years, specifically for law school, and then I'll give my opinion on other types of gap years that I've heard and seen people do at the end of the video. I'm going to give my answer right up front here and then explain myself. But before I do, stay till the end, because I'm going to give you the one situation where I could actually be wrong, which I don't admit very often, but I could be wrong about this if you take my suggestion that I'll give at the end. Gap years before law school. Don't do it. It's not worth it. You're wasting a year. You're wasting a year of networking. You're wasting a year that you could be called a prodigy because you're so young and you got into law school and you became partner by 30 and whatever it may be. You're pushing all that back a year if you take a gap year. And you never know what's going to happen. Usually, law schools are getting harder and harder and harder to get into. So if you wait a year, it's just going to be even harder to get into. And if you wait a year and you go away from school and come back, you've got to get back into the rhythm as opposed to going right from undergrad to law school. You're ready to take on that challenge and keep studying and just keep going with that student mentality versus going out, figuring out what job you're going to get, interviewing, starting a job that's not really helping you, just so you can wait and push it off a year to go into law school. Now, I understand some people have to work in order to pay for law school. So what I would say to them is get a part-time job while you're in college, save and scrape together every penny, find scholarships, because there are a ton, not just the scholarships the school gives, but a ton of private scholarships like our firm does, where you can get $1,000 here, $1,000 there, and that can help you a ton not have to take a gap year and work to pay for law school. So people that can't afford law school and have to pay for it, I get it. And if you've got to do that, go for it. But I think the best and the wisest choice would be going straight in from undergrad to law school. The majority of students in your class will be your age. They will be in your life cycle, in your life space, in your stage of life, and you can continue to grow with them throughout your entire career. So I always advise to go straight from undergrad to law school. Do not take a gap year. Some law firms will look at it and think you're lazy. I'm not saying you are. I'm just going to say, some of them look at it and say, why did you take a year off? What were you doing for that year? That's a question you're going to get in every interview, so you better be able to answer it the right way. And it better be a legitimate reason for taking a gap year, not, I wanted to travel the world, which is fine, and some people want to do that. And some law firms may think you're a well-rounded individual because you took time to travel the world. But lawyers and law school and law in general is about working hard and showing other people you're willing to do what others aren't, and showing you can push the hardest and you're mentally the strongest and mentally the toughest. That's a lot of what law school is about. So taking a gap year to travel or taking a gap year to find yourself, most lawyers and most partners are not going to take kindly to that. They might not say it to your face, but I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you look as good as you can when you're interviewing with the partner of the law firm that you want to work for. So I'm going to be honest with you. Most partners do not look fondly on people that take gap years. If you have to afford law school, that's one thing, and nobody's going to hit you for that. Totally understandable. But if you just took it because you didn't feel like continuing going to school, or you were burned out after 4 years of undergrad, you're probably going to struggle in law school. Maybe it's not the career for you because you have the 3 hardest years of school in your life ahead of you. So those questions and answers don't go well in interviews, and that's what I'm thinking about. The point of law school is to go out, get the best job where you're going to love it, you're going to enjoy success, you're going to feel fulfilled in that job. So I want to make you get that job and help you get that job. And taking a gap year because you're just not sure what you want to do with your life is not always the best route to take. Some people are very successful in gap years, so I'm not saying it's a 100% proposition. I'm just telling you, playing the odds, in my opinion, the best thing to do would not be to take a gap year. But there's one situation where I could be wrong, and I've even found myself in interviews enjoying the fact that people took a gap year to do this. And that's get a job in the legal field. Be a paralegal, be a clerk, be a receptionist, work at the courthouse, work for a judge, running papers, whatever it may be. If you get a job in the legal field, that actually might be a good reason to take a gap year. So if you need the money and you can't afford law school, so you have to take a gap year to get a job, make sure that job is in the legal field. You'll be able to answer questions your first year of law school that third-year students can't answer. You're going to understand the process of how law works and what it looks like, at least in the aspect that you worked on it, more than people that are 2 years ahead of you in law school. So that could be a really big benefit. And when you're interviewing, you can use that experience to show the lawyer, I actually know a little bit about how this works. I'm not just a student where it's all theoretical. I have some practical knowledge and some practical application that I've done in my gap year that I was able to use to propel me to the front of the class in law school. And you can use that as a resume builder instead of something that hurts your resume. You can use that as something that makes you sound better in an interview than makes you sound worse for taking a gap year. So if you can use that gap year and work in the legal field, I think that could potentially be a home run and prove my theory to be false. Talking about gap years in law school might be different than other things because a gap year before you get your MBA, I've heard works great, and not just a year. Sometimes people go out into the business world, work for a long time, and start working for a place that will actually pay for their MBA. And they'll get a promotion once they get that MBA that they may not have gotten if they started that job with an MBA, because you're starting from the ground up at a lot of these places. But once you get promoted a little bit and they say, well, if you get your MBA, you can even jump another step. So they'll pay for it for you. So gap years in that program may be worth it. So I'm just specifically talking about law school because there may be some differences with some other experiences I don't have. Law school is the experience I had, and I never wished I took a gap year. I think it was very beneficial to go straight from undergrad right through law school to excel as much as I could in law school, get to my networking, get to building my book of business immediately, get to being partner before I was 30, doing all that, and people are like, wow, you're so young, and you've done all this in your career. Well, if you take a gap year, you're at least going to be a year behind everyone else that's in your undergrad graduating class. So that's my opinion. Hit the comments, tell me why you disagree with me, or if you do agree with me, tell me why. Tell me some success stories if you've had gap years, or if you have friends that have had gap years or have experiences you'd like to share, because we're all about dialogue here. We love to do it in the comments. Thanks for listening.